I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is the last day of May 31st, 2023. Beautiful day here in Minnesota. I hope it's nice wherever you are around the country or around the world. Got a great program, as always, I promise, what I call robust conversations. And I'm going to be having a good time today with my first guest in a few minutes, talking about, well, I'm a gardener. Used to be an avid gardener. I've always envied the people who had greenhouses. And my guest today, Dan Berry, has information about Glasshouses, Greenhouses, and I'll ask him some things that will teach me more about what I might do in the future to develop my interest, my inclination. So beyond that, I want to, as always, remind you to pay attention to the protocols of our health. Even though the COVID-19 pandemic is over, it's still around. And with our friends at the Minnesota Department of Health, we're reminding you, and in our case, we're doing it through the pages of Inside newspaper and mentions on this program, that there are protocols that will help you stay safe, stay well. Simple: wash your hands every day. And then we have another notice in the newspaper, in this week's newspaper, that talks about, just common ways people spread germs. And you don't think it's important, but it really is. And if you become focused on avoiding germs, you'll be better. You'll be more protected. Well, again, thanks to our friends over at the Minnesota Department of Health for their work. And we are pleased to keep reminding ourselves, all of us, that we deserve to be healthy. And we can be healthy by paying attention and get the prevention that vaccination affords you, and follow the protocols. Before we go into the program, too, I want to invite all of you listening, watching, to support this program by going to our YouTube channel. It's the YouTube Insight News MN, and become a subscriber, like, and share. We want to get about 1,000 subscribers to start with, and you can help us by going to YouTube and find the Insight News Minnesota channel, and subscribe, share, and like as well. Just as a refresher, we're using about 5 different platforms to stream this program. We're streaming it on the Insight Twitter page, on my own personal Facebook page. We're streaming it on the Insight News Facebook page, as well as the Facebook page of Black Press USA. And we use LinkedIn, so we're reaching some of you on LinkedIn. And we are streaming it on 2 YouTube platforms, the one I mentioned earlier, YouTube Insight News MN, and also we're being hosted by the YouTube channel of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, that's called Black Press USA. So we are reaching out, and we enjoy the opportunity to connect with you. Our vision, our mission is that we can build community and create that one conversation at a time. Let's start with a couple of hot topics, things that I've been watching, and a couple of ideas to share with you. One, we talked yesterday, I believe, with Corey Day. And Corey Day is the former head of the Minnesota DFL party, not the head of the party, but the former executive director of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party. Now he's a principal at a company called Blue Ox Consulting, and he does political lobbying type work. But we talked about the violence occurring at some of the local contests here in Twin Cities. And in response to that, there was a conflict that broke out, a brawl that broke out on May 14th at the nominating convention for 10th Ward in South Minneapolis. And in response to that, the executive committee of the DFL party now has created new bylaws that would permanently ban anyone who engages in or incites acts of violence, to keep that person from participating in party activities. And that's what's happening with one of the candidates who was involved in the fracas at the 10th Ward Convention. The incumbent is Aisha Chungtai. she was on stage, asking the delegates to re-endorse her to the seat she holds presently. Her presentation somehow sparked anger or something among the challengers, among her challengers, her challenger supporters. Her challenger is Nasri Warsami. So some of them jumped on the stage and they were shouting and banging on tables, waving signs, and actually got into physical confrontations. The convention broke up, no endorsement. It was shameful. And so the party now has established that, number one, Nasri Warsami may not seek an endorsement by the DFL. Of course, he's free to run as an independent, but he will not be as a DFL endorsed candidate. And they put rules in place to try to tamper down that kind of disruptive activity. That's one thing. Second thing, kudos to one of our team members, Dr. Irma McLaurin, just received another honorary degree as a doctor of social studies from Grinnell College. And Irma is a writer, an artist, a organizer. Her motto has always been that you have to change minds and change hearts and change behaviors to achieve transformation. And she's been busy as an activist for her entire life as an academic. Irma got her bachelor's degree from Grinnell. She was one of the first members of her family to graduate from college. And she was also an established and published poet. As early as 1975, she won a Gwendolyn Brooks Award for poetry. She went on to get an MFA in English and a PhD in anthropology from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. And she's also made her mark as an academic entrepreneur. She had tenured faculty roles at Grinnell College, at the University of Florida, at the University of Minnesota. And she also was a founding member of the Africana Women's Studies program at Bennett College for Women. And she launched, this is where I met her, the Urban Research and Outreach Engagement Center here at University of Minnesota. So she's had a great career. She's a great writer. She's a regular columnist. She serves our organization as the editor for Education and Culture. Congratulations, kudos, Dr. Irma McLaurin. Well, let's see, let's move forward. And I want to now bring in my guest for today's program. Dan Berry is the head of sales at Hartley Botanic US, and caught my attention. I'm not sure why. Maybe I was scrolling, or maybe I got a press release. But the story that caught my attention was one about a new wave of interest in the country, and somehow emanating from England. I'll have him tell me this story, where people are getting more into glass houses. And so, yeah, I wasn't sure if it's about glass houses we're living in, or glass houses as in greenhouses. We're going to find out. Dan, good afternoon. Welcome to the conversation. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Al. I'm doing really well. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you for taking time to talk with me. Let's do 101 for Hartley Botanic. Tell me about your company, what the product is, and what is a glass house or greenhouse? What's the difference?
Really, there's not a big difference. So Hartley's been manufacturing greenhouses in England. Sometimes they refer to them more so as glass houses. Really, one and the same. We've been making greenhouses by hand in Greenfield and Oldham since 1938. So quite a long time, and it's the same factory. In the glass, it's tempered safety glass. We do work all over the world. The framework is powder coated aluminum, and we've got a factory there. We've got our own powder coating facility there, and do work really all around the world. So we've got one office here in the United States, which happens to be in Massachusetts, but we don't do any manufacturing here in the United States. It's all done at the same factory since the 1930s in England.
So is there something happening in terms of popularity or accessibility or affordability? Why is the topic kind of buzzing right now in the marketplace?
It's probably buzzing. You probably had some carryover from COVID. COVID, some pretty incredible impacts. If there can be maybe any romantic part to COVID, it's incredible to think for Hartley as a business. I believe it was just the second time that there was a pause in manufacturing since World War II. And Hartley turned over part of the factory to make shell casings for the war effort. So we had a pause initially early on in the COVID outbreak for maybe about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks or so, as per the UK government. And then a lot of protocols were put in place. We returned to manufacturing. Here in the US, I think it was just a different way of life. You had people that willingly or not, they were forced to maybe commute or, virtually. Home businesses do a lot of work at their own residences and travel a lot less. With the latter part of that, traveling a lot less, I think you found a lot of people, as the pandemic progressed, they wanted to put maybe some of the funds that they were going to be using for traveling and invest that into something at their property, and thinking about the challenges with some of the food shortages and product shortages, be a bit more self-sustainable. And there in turn led to an increase in demand for people wanting to invest in something that was going to last a lifetime. And Hartley guarantees their greenhouses and the structure, the installation and writing for 30 years. So I think that peace of mind helped, that the investment was going to be a wise one.
We got some artwork or a photograph of one of your products. Let's show that, and you can walk me through what this structure is. And is this a common addition to a home, or what are other ways do people, get to their glass house or greenhouse living?
Yeah, so that project is a gorgeous one in a historic part of Massachusetts on the shore. It would be what I would call a Victorian a budding greenhouse. So it's attached to an outbuilding, almost like a cottage on a property, and it made for easy access into and out of the greenhouse and the adjacent structure.
Okay. And the greenhouse then primarily is a growing space, right, for food?
That's right. That's right. So in that structure, they had benching, they had upper, benching, so people could put flats and pots and things, maybe do some seed starting. They also had some almost like upper shelving or shoulder height shelving, so they could have some additional space, maybe for some smaller things of, starting some herbs and things. So that would be above the benching. So it really helps maximize the space inside that greenhouse to literally grow in there. And then sometimes you have also people, not in that structure, I think that was a smaller one, but sometimes you'll have people have a small sitting area. They might want to relax and unwind.
So how does that work? I mean, my idea of a greenhouse is it's going to be hot, particularly in the summertime, but maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe these are organized to have a moderated temperature year round. How does that work?
Yes, there's a lot of things you can do. And that's why you have to kind of think and ask questions, of what people might be growing. Are they growing tropicals? Are they going to be growing cooler things like kale and lettuce and so on? So if somebody's going to be using the structure quite a bit in the summer, they might want to add some roof blinds. We can also add additional vents for the roof, the side. Typically, the ventilation in the roof would be these automatic bayless vent operators. So the actuator doesn't use any electricity at all. It's a simple premise of expansion and contraction of these mineral wax filled cylinders. So they can open at a range from between about 55 to 75 degrees, and then as the sun starts to set, the actuators would close down to trap in the warmth, and then at some point, that's when your heating system would then kick on to keep your, maybe your tropicals or whatnot at a super desired temperature, that whatever temperature range you wanted.
So in that regard, you got both a garden or a flower room, and you, as you said, can have a place to lounge a little bit if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's really popular, especially in areas that might have harsh winters.
Mhm.
Throughout the Northeast, around the Great Lakes. When you think about trudging through 2 or 3 feet of snow in Minnesota,
Yep.
you're going to use a greenhouse a lot more if you do have it attached to a home or a garage area, and it really gives you the ability to do and grow things in there where you just wouldn't have the chance to do so otherwise.
That's cool. So um, you mentioned that your products might have a 20, 30-year life that you guarantee.
Well, the lifetime, it's a lifetime guarantee. There's been structures that I've seen that have been dismantled and relocated when people have moved. There's some that have moved back and forth from England to Canada a couple of times from 60, 70 years ago. So
Wow.
it's pretty interesting to see some of these really pieces of history that
Hmm.
I mean the greenhouse, aluminum framing, it's not going to rot or rust away. So it's really it really becomes almost really an heirloom, so to speak, for a family as they're putting a garden design together, and maybe it could be almost a focal point for their family, and sometimes lucky neighbors.
Hmm. Have you been to Minneapolis before? Do you know our town here, Twin Cities?
I don't know it tremendously well. I know we've built all over, but I don't really know Minneapolis too well.
There's a phenomenal greenhouse structure here associated with one of our premier arts organizations, Walker Arts Center, just off of downtown Minneapolis. And we used to go there when my kids were young, and it was just uncanny to walk into this. I'm guessing now to give you a size of what this structure was, maybe like 30 feet deep and maybe 100 feet long or 200 feet long, but 60, 70 feet high. Because a big,
Oh
tall
yeah,
building, and it
large.
had huge tropical plants that were year round. And that's just a wonderful feeling to walk out of the snow and into a room, and you've got this lush tropical experience. It's amazing.
Well, as you're saying that, you're smiling, and
Yeah.
really that remains true with even a lot of customers have said the almost therapeutic
Yeah.
um, room or destination spot that they've created has done wonders to help them as a stress reliever, kind of a tropical oasis where
Mhm.
they can escape from it all. And post pandemic, we hear that resonate a lot with folks.
And so the question I was going to ask first was, what does having a greenhouse do for the value of a property? Is it an asset that you can plan that will give more value to your property, or is it negligible?
So it's actually a really good question, one that's been posed quite a bit. It's one where I would say we don't have any data behind does having a Hartley greenhouse add value. I would assume it would.
Hmm.
In my time, I've been working with Hartley, gosh, for about 25 years now. I think I can recall about 3 instances where the new prospective homeowner, for whatever reason, weren't into gardening, or
Hmm.
had a too busy work life where they were going to be able to use the greenhouse. And our existing customer then arranged a purchase and sale with the buyer of their new home, to have us come out, dismantle and relocate their greenhouses even a few miles away or to a different state. So we've done that, I think at least 3 times from the time that I've been here. But for the most part, I think what homeowners do, if they do end up selling their home and it's got one of our greenhouses, they really make a detailed write-up to note the fact that this is part of their property, part of the sale. So it's definitely been the case for a number of folks.
I live in the city proper here in Minneapolis. North Minneapolis community that I'm in is the center of the Black community. It's urban, it's mixed, but this is the largest concentration of African Americans and other people of color in Minneapolis. And what I've discovered over the past years, I've lived here 30 years where I'm sitting right now. I've been in this particular house since 1973, so maybe almost 50 years. Almost 50 years here. So I've seen a change in attitude in the community where people are becoming more, I would say, energy conscious, environmentally conscious, people doing more gardening, more walking, more biking, and things like that. And how have you seen your customer demographics change over the years? Is that something that you're noticing, or is it always, the Yule Givens type outdoors person that is attracted to your product, or is your customer changing in any way?
It's definitely changing, and it's a huge growth curve, to be honest. It's almost the equivalent if you compare England and the United States in greenhouses. It's almost similar to a greenhouse for a homeowner in England is almost to equate that of a homeowner in the United States of having a garage. So they're tremendously popular in England. They're far advanced for most American gardeners. There are I would say that said, I think a lot of the U.S. market is educating folks. Some people didn't even really know what greenhouses were. They haven't seen them, and then when they there's more schools and colleges and private schools that have invested into greenhouses, and what that does, it's an educational side where people can see that you actually don't have to go to a store in the center part of a store and buy goods that are loaded with preservatives and things. That you can grow things from seed, fruits, veggies, some things you don't really need much additional heat, your cooler crops and things, and that aspect it also helps to teach of potential other careers in horticulture and gardening and growing.
Well, that's the direction I was taking in the question, this whole idea of sustainability and people's perception of how they can live maybe in a more responsible way. And I would say that being able to grow your own food in your own yard or backyard or community garden is a way of being responsible, because you reduce the cost of transportation of foods that have to be traveled across the country. You can grow things that you can enjoy without the preservatives, right? And without all of the things that are toxic. And there's nothing better than going outside to your yard and picking the lettuce you want to eat today, or the carrots, or the greens, or anything else that you have grown yourself. It's a good feeling. So what's on the horizon for your company and for the greenhouse movement? That's the question I'm asking now. Where do you see it going in this country, and where do you want it to go?
So there's tons of growth. Our design team in England, they're continually reviewing possible different size structures, different product lines. there's things even back to touch on, the community gardening. That's even becoming a bigger thing, where even that first slide that you pulled up before, that was probably a structure only about 8.5 by 10.5 or so. But there's a number of customers that own, some of our greenhouses in that size range, and they try to do almost some of their own small community gardening, where they'll do a lot of seed starting and then transplant into raised beds and things. And at the end of the year, with their family and freezing some of the produce that they've grown, and friends and neighbors that they're still able to donate to their local food bank. So it's kind of that community aspect of things as well. That's pretty promising to see. And really that helps people learn more about greenhouses and the possibilities.
So are you working with any community, local organizations around the country or in England? How do you connect with communities, or is it just customer to customer?
A lot of it is customer to customer. There's been a number of customers that I've had that I think even with some of the advantages of social media, where they have some of their local community outreach and have invited folks in the community to try to participate and learn how to grow.
Let me take this on a personal level. Dan, how did you get interested in this field? And you said you've been there, 24 years, 30 years?
Yeah, this will be my 25th year. It's
Okay.
to be honest, part of it, the initial thing was an accident. Literally, it was an accident. I was in a really, really bad car accident.
Oh, real accident.
And I shattered my femur and had to learn how to walk again. And long story short, a headhunter found something intriguing that I thought I might really like. I was always involved in sales and marketing and finance and manufacturing and such. Before getting back into find a new career, I said I'd take I would take on a job interview ahead of the one that I thought I wanted, and lo and behold, I learned a little bit about Hartley. A week later, I was on a plane visiting the Hartley factory. I was there for almost a month.
Wow.
And you fall in love with it. No one, you just picture this factory that's been there since the 1930s. They do a lot of work by hand, and toured the factory, toured
How many people work there? How large an organization is it in terms of their workforce? What would you guess?
It's I don't even have the exact. I would say probably a couple hundred total. And growing, so it's a pretty incredible business. Is
it mostly custom work, or is it manufactured now, or is it kit work now?
So there are some kit style greenhouses that we have. I would say for the U.S. market, although a few kit style structures are available, many people. And a lot depends on size and things. Many people might find themselves too busy or not want to deal with lots of instructions to put something together, and they want and prefer
done right.
Drink an ice cold lemonade or beverage of choice while our installers are building it, and do the final walkthrough and turn over their keys for their new greenhouse. And a lot really depends on size, anywhere from 100 square foot to greenhouse to thousands of square feet. So
well, Minnesota, yesterday, I think our governor signed a law making recreational marijuana available, and that includes the provision that individuals, there are restrictions obviously, but individuals can grow small numbers. And I'm wondering if some of the people that are in the commercial business will probably using, greenhouse technology to support their growth year round for the commercial products, but I'm sure that some consumers that are, interested in gardening will also find this product is one that can help them do what they want to do. Um, uh, I love the idea that, this just, for me, makes it possible for a person to do more in gardening earlier in the year and later in the year and possibly year round because of the systems that you put together. Um, any other thing you want to mention about what you're doing? Any big plans for the U.S. growth?
The U.S. is a funny market, especially when you compare it to England. Like we talk. So I live in Massachusetts.
Mhm.
Our weather is very similar. Cold, nasty winters for the
Mhm.
most part. Sometimes they're not as bad as others, but I think it's really, really critical and allows people really to almost be able to cheat Mother Nature.
Mhm.
You're not supposed
Yeah.
to be able to grow anything outside
Right.
in places that we live. And then in doing so, the last thing you're going to want to do is invest whatever
Mhm.
X amount of money into something and then have it fall down
Mhm.
and not last for some high winds and heavy snow loads and
Mhm.
things like that. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we look at. We look at the North America and wind loads and snow loads and those things to really over design a structure, over engineer it. So when it's all said and done and you have it installed, you can get in there and grow and use it and enjoy it year round.
How secure are they from, like damage from rocks or thrown things? Is that depending on the kind of glass you use, or?
So the glass is tempered safety glass. It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to break if
I
you
mean,
wanted
like
to go out
a
of your
baseball
way.
and kids in the alley with a baseball, you
Yeah, and
know?
so odds are, if somebody was determined to break it or cause damage to somebody's
Sure.
greenhouse, you could see that happening. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I think huge benefit is that the glass that we have is called tempered safety glass. So
Mhm.
it's similar to say an automobile. It's not going to, if it does break, it's not going to come down in shards.
Right.
It would almost crumble. But
Mhm.
we've had, I think there's a customer I had out in Indiana years back where somebody damaged his greenhouse by shooting at it.
Mm.
So there was a bullet hole from a deer rifle or something, went in one end, out the other.
Mhm.
The glass remained intact, other than a bullet hole and like a
Mhm.
spider web effect
Right.
that would happen. And it was a simple scenario. He called us up nervous. We were able to give them some guidance. We could send a crew out
Mhm.
to fix it, or we could give you some guidance, help them find a local glass person, gave him the sizes, and he had a local handyman switch out the glass panes, from us giving them some advice on the phone in
Sure.
10 or 15 minutes. So it's a simple resolution. Not very common, but
Right. But the support is
simple to
there. That's
solve.
great.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, what's again, what's your vision? What do you see uh, in terms of growing? Now, are you running the North American business for the company?
So I don't. The president of the business is Neil Bobrick. Tom Barry is the CEO. Managing director. So our business, for a long time, it was a smaller business. When I started in 1998, it was a huge opportunity for growth.
Hmm.
All this time, all these years later, uh, I think the growth is even greater because we're investing a lot of resources to help continue to grow the market. From public structures to just more structures out there, and it seems to be a factual thing. The more people that actually see our structures erected and are able to walk inside and see them in use, the more structures end up getting sold.
Are there any environmental considerations, or is there a discussion on the impact of building a greenhouse or a glass house Has that come up? Or what's the research on environmental impact?
Are you talking about like permitting or?
Just I'm thinking generally about global warming and general energy use. And I mentioned earlier, one of the benefits of gardening is that you reduce the cost associated with transporting a lot of food. What kind of impact does a greenhouse have on the environment or on the economy?
Yeah, so back to one of those things I was mentioning earlier. Community gardening is a huge thing, and that's just going to be growing.
Mhm.
You know, I think COVID touched on that, and maybe created maybe more attention thrown at that, where there were many communities that didn't have availability for fresh food,
Mhm.
shipping containers, and shortages of lots of various supplies. So I think some of those things are pretty critical. If you're able to grow it in your local town or the town next door, community gardening is a really big growth curve.
Okay. Listen, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a great conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm going to keep my own idea of a possibility. I may be a customer of yours myself in the future, because now I know more and I know who to call anyway if
Very good.
I want to
Very
move in
good.
that direction. Let me ask you to invite our viewers and listeners to connect with you. How do they find out about your company or about you if they want to get more information, or get your help in getting their own greenhouse purchased
Yeah.
and set up?
So it should be pretty easy. We've got a pretty big presence online, and really, if they just go to our website, it's www.hartley, spelled HARTLEY -botanic.com. So HARTLEY -botanic.com, and they can do a Google search. All the various social platforms we're on there as well, and you can reach us anytime. And
Dan,
it could also be just giving us a call at the office, the good old fashioned way.
telephone still works.
Yep. Yep.
Listen, Dan, thank you so much. It was so good to meet you. Thank you for the informative information, the informative conversation, and continued success in all that you do. You're welcome to come back anytime to keep talking about what you do. I'd
Excellent.
love to hear
Excellent.
it.
Al. Well, I appreciate your time. Have a great day, and we'll look forward to chatting again soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. A great interview, just great energy. And, it's information that we don't really talk enough about, using assets, tools, resources, both for leisure, for beauty, aesthetics, and for the practical aspect of growing gardens or doing gardening food for our households and for our community. So I think as our community becomes more conscious of itself as a steward of community and of the environment, things like this resource, encouraging people to grow their own food and to do that in a way that's responsible and sustainable and that's practical and that's beautiful. I think that's going to take up a space of prominence in our community, in our collective space. Well, let me continue with today's program. I'm pleased to have my friend and colleague, Coach Leah. Normally on Monday, but with the holiday, so we ask her to come by this time to chat about what's happening in the world of sports and beyond. Coach Leah, my friend, how are you?
I am really well. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we do. Yes, we
Awesome,
do.
awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I was a little feeling a little, sad because I really was getting used to joining you on Mondays, and but I'm glad that everyone had a very wonderful. Well, I
Yes.
hope everyone had a very wonderful and safe Memorial Day. But so The trending topic that I wanted to discuss today is the Miami Heat. Congratulations to them who hung on to win the Eastern Conference Finals of the NBA as the 8th seed. So that's the lowest seed, okay? Not counting the play-in games. We don't want to count those. But now, did you know, Al, that for only the second time in NBA history has a number 8 seed ever even made it to the finals, to the championships, to play for a championship? So the 8th seeded Miami Heat continued their unbelievable playoff run by knocking off the number 2 Boston Celtics in their Eastern Conference Finals. And so many of you, if you heard my last discussion with you, Al, you'll know that I'm not a huge Boston Celtics fan. It only was a fan for the time that Kevin Garnett played for them. So I'm not too sad about that. And I really enjoy watching Jimmy Butler, who is a Houston native, Texas native. He's kind of been all over, doing so well for the Miami Heat. So now, when was the last time that a number 8 seed has made it to the finals? Well, that was in 1999.
Well, let me stop you here first before you do this. I'm going to play this guy I know named Al McFarlane, who is who knows nothing about sports. And so when you start saying 8th seed, 2 seed, you got to slow down and break it down. What are you talking about?
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So you know what a ranking is. So ranking, the number 1 rank would be the top.
Sure.
So in the conference playoffs, there are only 8 teams that make it into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying on the east side, so you've got the Eastern Conference, and then you've got the Western Conference, and then those comprise and who will play for the championship, right? Okay. So now there are of those 16 teams, 8 on each, the Eastern and 8 in the Western. The Miami Heat was the lowest seed on the Eastern Conference. So for them to...
Why is the word seed used? Is it seed? Is that what it's SEED?
SEED, yes.
What's the meaning of that word?
That's a really great question. I'm going to have to look that up.
Okay.
I think at one time it actually had to do with seeds. Mm-hmm. So like if a person, like when you were playing, imagine when you were kids, right? Mm-hmm. And they would say, so the person that has the most seeds or the less seeds were either the best or the worst.
Mm-hmm. Something like that. Some counting. Okay.
Correct. Okay. And so you could probably just exchange the word seed for rank.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that would probably be a little more helpful in trying to understand that concept. But that's a really great question. Yeah. And I'm going to have to look that up to get the historical context.
Well, I'm glad I'm talking to an expert, because I'm going to learn something just by hanging out with you.
Well, I'm going to learn something by learning more stuff. This is going to be great. So, so the last time a number 8 seed made it to the championships was in 1999, and that was the New York Knicks. And so there's kind of a little asterisk by that, because during the 1999 there was an NBA lockout, and so the season was shortened. And so almost similar to the bubble season when Los Angeles won the championship, the LA Lakers won the championships a few years ago. So anyway, so there's some people kind of frown upon, was that an actual season, because it wasn't all of the games that were. So then the next question that we would want to ask is, so what are Miami's chances now of actually winning the NBA championship? So now, ever since the playoffs expanded to 16 teams, the 16 that I was talking about, right? Mm-hmm. That didn't happen until 1984, which is not that long ago, right?
Right.
But never has an 8th seed ever won an NBA final. So they've got, history could be made. And
the odds are against them winning.
Yes. So now, but what I want to know is who is with me in cheering for the underdogs. So, put your any information, like if you're watching on the replay of this, let us know if you think Miami's got a chance, you guys. So put that in the chat that you guys are watching this replay if you're not watching live. So we want to know what you think of that. So yeah. So guess what's happening in 1 week?
I got an idea, but you tell me.
So we've got Coach Leah's After the Whistle, which
That's
will
what
debut next week. So so excited. And again, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share, for you to share your platforms with what we're calling the first of its kind project. We don't even have a name for what this is yet, but it's curated by myself. 3 different multimedia platforms will After the Whistle appear on. So the first will be a video live stream, and we'll be live streaming Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So Tuesdays, 4 p.m., you can tune in to either the Black Press USA or Insight News networks. And from my understanding, and I heard you talking about the myriad of different ways that we can catch shows. So any of those things.
You'll be across Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of them.
Exactly.
Right.
So you'll be able to catch us live on all of those platforms, you guys. But then after that, a segment of the interview will then appear in the printed publication of Inside News, which I'm so excited about that, because I just happen to know that there are so many people that read Inside News still to this day, like the actual paper, not even just not even just the web versions, the e-versions, but the actual newspaper.
Right.
And I was delighted to see the different places around town where Insight News is. And I do want to share with my St. Paul brothers and sisters that we're going to be making a bigger impact over there as well. So I don't want you to feel just because, you know, we're kind of based in Minneapolis, the home base in Minneapolis, that we don't care about our brothers and sisters across the river, or actually anywhere in the entire metroplex.
Or the state, actually, because we have strategies and plans to ensure that we get out to places like Duluth and Moorhead and St. Cloud and down to Mankato, Rochester, Worthington. It's all in the mix. How do we ensure that we connect not only digitally, which we can and do now, but also with our printed product as well? So it's coming.
And I'm really, really excited about that, because there's just a huge demographic of people that just enjoy, you know, picture this. You're sitting first thing in the morning and you're just drinking your coffee, and it's the first of the week and you're reading Insight. And that's what you've been doing for years, like for a very long time. And so we want to continue with that. Then the third way that you'll be able to catch After the Whistle is on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And so you've got your Spotify, you've got Amazon, you've got, Apple. There's just so many. So whatever's your favorite, you'll be able to find After the Whistle there as well. So 3 different places. You've got a lot of projects that are appearing, maybe 2, but 3. And then I do want to add, however, that there's a possibility of catching part of what we'll do for After the Whistle on Tuesdays as well, with our partnership with KFAI. So that's terrestrial radio. So just so many ways that you'll be able to learn about elite athletes and their lives off the court, off the course, off the field. You know, what are they doing when they're not playing their sport, or even after they've retired from their sport? What are they doing? And those are the stories, and those are the things that we'll learn about. And when you tune in live, you'll be able to ask your questions to those favorite people, like right there, right then and there. So that's super exciting as well.
Let me ask Yasmin if she can pull up one of the issues. It's the one from the week of, let me see, 2 weeks ago. It's got the graphics on the front page about wealth building, but that article, that edition has two stories by you, I believe, in it, and one by this young man who's writing, who's a Somali young person, a college student that I met at McAllister College. But I wanted to just show that and have you talk about, just again, the power of the printed word and what we think we can do together to elevate. I'm excited, Coach Leah, because number one, you are an expert as a practitioner, as an athlete, and then as an educator, as a coach, as a teacher, and also as an entrepreneur. And so to bring your voice and your experience and your vision to people that I connect with through the newspaper, online, or on radio is a real joy for me. And I am especially interested in ensuring that you are presented as the authority that you are, period. And that when you speak, authority is speaking, knowledge, and understanding and wisdom and experience all come through. And I think that's important. So I'm hoping that, we had the interview with Coach, who we talked to. She was a member of the Lynx, and you and I interviewed her a couple weeks ago.
Are you thinking of Lisa Lissamore from the State High School League, Minnesota
Right,
State High
Lisa
School
Lissamore. We talked.
Yes.
That was a great conversation, right? With her as a person that was active in athletics and also active in the civic space, and you as a person that a generation down from her. That's cool. And so I said, there probably are many, many women who have great stories, great voices, great histories, and who have been barrier shatterers, breaking through and creating space. So I'm hoping that's what I know you're going to be doing in this space in media, as you've done it already on the court and as a coach. So I'm excited.
Well, thank you. And the thing that I wanted to mention as you're saying that is, so often we hear this term all the time with imposter syndrome. I wrote about it as well, because we're doing things and how others perceive us, we don't necessarily perceive ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm learning to do a better job of perceiving myself the way others perceive me, especially when it's positive. I mean, when it's negative, you still want to do a self-check. You're going to be like, wait, did I? But when it's positive, to really try to own that, because it's clearly, especially if what you're trying to do is intentional, is where you've done the homework, you've done the work, and then you have learned to be the authority on a subject or in a space. And so for other people to acknowledge that, it's very heartwarming and humbling. And so I want to thank you for that. And yeah, I'm going to own the fact that because I'm in this space, I'm an expert. You probably need to holler at your girl.
That's right. Well, we had on camera those articles. Maybe put those back up. Talk about those two articles there just briefly.
Oh, sure. So the first is NFL All-Pro Warren Moon. So for many of the Minnesota Viking fans, you remember him from when he played with the Minnesota Vikings. But what many people don't know is that he actually resides in Houston, Texas now. And of course, many people are learning that I'm bi-coastal, the two ends of the United States, Minnesota and Texas.
Yep.
And so a dear friend of mine who writes for, who is part of the National Football Writers Association, had a chance to learn about this story and shared it with me, where Warren Moon actually helped a young man who, when he was a boy, decided he did not want to be a Warren Moon fan because Warren Moon kind of shooed him and didn't give him his autograph as a kid. Kind of was, it was unintentional.
Yeah,
but
right.
It's amazing what people remember as children, right? So he went through life, saying, Warren Moon ain't nothing and all this and that. Well, when Richard Walker heard about this story, because it went into the social media space, he told this gentleman that if he stopped smoking, that he would get an autograph from Warren Moon for him. And so he did. And so that's where this man's dream finally came true, that he was able to hear from his, who he as a kid, really idolized, and then ended up hating, for lack of a better word, but idolizing again, in actually a much more meaningful way, because it was more than just an autograph as a kid. It was the fact that now Warren Moon is speaking positive life into this young man as opposed to this little boy. So it's kind of cool.
That's really
go back to
the benefit of him learning to not smoke. That was a fair exchange. That was that's a great story.
Exactly. And so I want to encourage you, if you to go back to either the e-edition of Inside News or to the web, www.insidenews.com, and you can pull those stories up and read for yourself. How it's just wonderful that story is. The other is, Insight News wanted to give honor to the legacy of Frank Gilliam Sr., who was an executive for many, many years for the Minnesota Vikings, probably the most prolific scout they ever had. And he passed away recently. And so we just do a little tribute to Frank Gilliam from the family's perspective, and from not just the family's perspective, but also several other executives or NBA legends that played for the Vikings. And so you'll get a chance to read about that. So again, go back to our e-edition to find that story, or to www.insightnews.com to get that as well.
Coach Leah, thank you. As always, it's so great to have you here. I look forward to building our work together with After the Whistle, and with all of the other products and ideas and things we're going to be working on for the community. And to our viewers and listeners, we appreciate your being here, appreciate your support. As I said, you can support us by subscribing. Go to the YouTube channel, YouTube Insight News MN, and simply subscribe, like, and share. I want to close by once again reminding you to join our friends at the Minnesota Department of Health in creating awareness about preventing COVID and about staying safe. And they're doing that. We're doing that with them by promoting, in this case, an ad in the paper that says a simple message: wash your hands. But it says it in 20 different languages, and that's really, really cool. We also have messages in the current issue of Insight News that explain ways that people, commonly spread germs, and the germs include the possibility of getting sick with COVID-19. Pay attention and be safe and be aware. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.